All right, welcome everybody to day one of niche-style implementation design. Now, that is a $20 word to describe, I suppose, a whole bunch of mental models and technologies that I want to give you over the next 5 days in these very short, sharp sessions. No one has time for big 2-hour-long workshops. So the idea is to give you something incredibly tangible each day over the next 5 days, because there's this phenomena that we have where when we look at our productivity and we look at our the way that we work, anybody who's on my list, and no matter how you've come to see me or watch me today, the odds are you are indeed entrepreneurial. Right, you either want to create a business or you want to make a change. There's no doubt about that there's one of the people that's who you are if you've somehow found this. And there's a absolute, and I'll go into detail in just a minute, but here's the deal, right? Anybody who's watching this, traditional productivity systems, effectiveness systems, organizational systems won't work for you. There's about 4 to 5% of this audience, who can follow a great to-do list, right? They're great at doing a to-do list. They follow it, they plan, they put it in their book. They're fabulous at using Trello all the time. That's about 5% of the audience. The rest of us are never good. And we always felt it was our fault, right? It was our fault that we couldn't do. I've got shelves full over here of, I've never met an organizational system I didn't love. Daytimer, Filofax, in the good old days. Remember those? Pen and paper, right? Then we got Palm Pilots and iPacs, and then various and then, oh my goodness, the iPhone arrived, and we've got all these incredible organizational software, and we've got Trello, and we've got all of these sorts of things. I've set them all up, right? And I've just for whatever reason, I can never stick with them, and I thought it was me. Now let's just do a little experiment. If that is you, just let us know in the chat box if you are, and this will be about 60% of the audience. Just let us know in the chat box here. Are you the type of person who loves a productivity system, who set up getting things done, but for some reason you just can't stick with them? Let us know in the chat box here. Yep, lots of thumbs up there. Hit the thumbs up. That's it. Right? So it's crazy, right? Look at those thumbs up. Exactly. So it's a real challenge, right? And and initially I blamed myself. I thought, well, I obviously suck. But turns out it's the same genes, effectively, that make you want to be entrepreneurial, that want you to be your own boss, to create something for yourself, to build something up for yourself, are distinctly incompatible with following productivity systems. And I will prove that to you today. Now, and like I said, there's a small percentage of you watching today who are like right now going, what in the heck are you talking about? I'm a demon with a organizational checklist. I'm fabulous at following my bullet journal. And you could well be. Don't worry, you've got other challenges. But it's for most entrepreneurs, as you saw with all the thumbs up and the ticks, and you can see the comments coming through there, right? Or lately, yes, but didn't used to be this way, right? All of these things. It's not your fault. It's not your fault, and I'm going to prove it. Okay, so let's do that, and then let's flick over here, and let's go on here. So these are some of the issues that I think, pop that down. These are some of the issues that I think people who've joined today have. Why do I start stuff and not finish, right? Why don't I ship, right? I start lots of stuff, but I never finish. I never follow through. Why is that? And the one we discussed before, why do I love productivity systems but never stick with them? right? And I love it. And I hate feeling overwhelmed. I'm trying to get something going. I'm trying to create a business, but with everything that's happening with life and everything, just when I think I've got an open window, bam, crashing overwhelm. Which one? Let us know in the chat box. Which one of those sort of is your one? I know for me, it was always start and not finish. You have been spying on me. Thumbs up. Yes, it's me, and I'm a productivity coach. Hey, there's the classic. Trust me, there's the classic. It's the plumber with the leaky taps. That happens a lot. Overwhelm. This is Damien. Me, it's start and not finish. Right, there are all of these. Right, there are different things. Feel free to pop them in the chat. Overwhelm, start not finish, start not finish. Right. And one of the great things about being in this group environment, and thank you so much for sharing and participating. It makes it, the types of workshops I run are not designed for you to sit back and do nothing. If I did that, I'd create a nice fancy video for you. Video is much more appropriate. In a workshop, I want us to work and think. So thank you so much for contributing here. Number 2, right? I think all of us can, just empathize with at least one of these things, one of these frustrations that we constantly have. But I think the frustration adds up, and is that, if I go down here, is I don't want to finish another year in the same place or worse. The great Einstein quote, which is the definition of insanity, doing things the same way and expecting a different result. If that's you, and that's certainly been me last week, right, in all sorts of different things, then what I hope over the next 5 days is to give you a bunch of, like I say, mental models and actionable processes that will allow you to start to act differently. Because if we act differently, by definition, we are going to get a different result. That's the key. How does that sound? Give us a thumbs up on the window here if that's that's something that you'd like to get. In fact, let me just actually, if I bust down here, because wouldn't it be awesome if you knew what to do and when to do it? That'd be great, right? Everything flows, and that you see visible progress on my key projects. I've done the challenge, and for those of you who don't know me that well, my claim to fame, for want of a better word, is I created this little thing called the challenge, which has always been a free way to get people started with business. And over 450,000 people over the last 13 years have gotten their start online going through the challenge process. And I've been incredibly privileged to see that and see how people how they are super effective, and honestly where they fail. And I'm always looking for, how can I stop that? How can I intervene from those areas and those failures? And let me tell you, not wanting to work hard is the least problem, right? It's the smallest problem. Anybody who's doing this, for goodness sake, all of you on this thing here live right now, it's New Year's Day, for goodness sake, right? So there's absolutely no question that your motivation is there, that you want to be able to do this. But it was probably like that in 2017, 2016, 2015, and 1988, right? So we want to make sure that we capture and we harness that. But it's not the hard work that's the issue, and I want to prove that to you. But wouldn't it be awesome? Ultimately, is my business supports me and my loved ones. That's where we really want to be. That's the goal here. Look, the $1 million days and the super expensive boats, and although I always joke with my friends, is how do you make a small fortune, have a large fortune, buy a boat. But all of those things, they come in time. They certainly don't come after a year. I often use the example, if we talk in the challenge, we always talk about making your first dollar. And this is something we talk about in the academy a lot as well. And the thing about, first of all, okay, let's look at first dollars for a second. Let's look at the greatest entrepreneurs of all time. When you think of a great entrepreneur, like Richard Branson. Okay, Richard Branson, right? The great entrepreneur, and he's fantastic dude, incredible accomplishments, of fingers in over 400 business pies, or at least lends his name to those, and brilliant, right? But his first business venture was a student newspaper, which he ran for 4 years and never made a zack. In fact, his parents had to often bail him out. He had a lot of fun and met a lot of interesting people, but didn't make a zack. Okay. His first profitable business venture was a record store in London, which took him 2 years to make profitable. You can see all this in his biography. So he didn't make his first pound, to be currency correct, until 6 years after he started. 6 years. I think we could do a little bit better than that. And of course, there's a little bit of an issue with the way he actually turned his record store profitable, which was avoid tax, and he had to spend a day in jail and all those sorts of details. But he got there, and that's where he started. But it was 6 years. And what the mistake that so many people make is that you are trying to compare your start with their finish, your first dollar with their millionth or billionth dollar, right? And we forget that. We compare ourselves constantly. If you ever write or you do anything, we're comparing ourselves constantly with somebody's finished product, yet we're just starting. And so we need different tools, and we need different approaches and strategies to deal with that. So, speaking of people who started slowly, Warren Buffett took him 4 years to get his fund up, running, and profitable. This is another classic example, right? We keep comparing. We think, wow, look at all these amazingly successful people. Their origin stories all take place over guaranteed multiple years. Elon Musk, Steve Jobs. For goodness sake, he was a smelly hippie padding around, campuses and dropping in on classes because he didn't pay for his tuition fees. All of these people, they didn't have overnight success. There is no such thing as overnight success. And unfortunately, what happens is our mental model is, wow, look at all those people who are successful. So I have to make January 2018 because I'm fired up. I'm revved up for New Year's Day. Let's do this. Right? And it's not going to work. Right? It is just not going to work, particularly if you're in the situation where the entrepreneurial endeavor that you want to create or you are creating is not your primary driver of revenue yet. In other words, it's not paying the bills, right? So that means that you've got an incredible amount of, what calls on your time, and we need to manage that, and we need to think differently about that. We need to act differently. These are the investment bits of advice from Warren Buffett. Do not follow the crowd. Ignore the market, the crowd, and its fashions. Have fixed investment principles. Do not put your eggs in many baskets. Put all your eggs in one basket and proceed to watch the basket. That's my absolute favorite. Do not rely on outside analysis. Do your own research and do it thoroughly. All of these ones. Do not place small amounts in each basket. All of these things I think are incredibly valuable. So my goal, actually, before I get onto that. So, Ed, you started out saying you're telling the whole truth. So true. Oh, that's brilliant. Hi, Michael. Welcome. Okay, so here's the thing, the Kolbe discovery. So this is not that many, 3 years ago now, I was in a pretty poor place. I'd been made bankrupt. Nothing to do with work or any of those sorts of things. It was to do with an investment that went really bad. Note to Bitcoiners out there, learn from my pain. But I was in a pretty poor place, and a dear friend of mine suggested I should do this Kolbe test. Now, I've been allergic to doing any sort of, I've never done an IQ test in my life, never once. I'm terrified of the response. I'm pretty sure it'll come up and sort of start blinking and start saying, sorry, not enough responses to get a response. It would be a dead flat line. And I certainly don't want to do any sort of emotional tests or anything like that, because then I just don't, I'm too afraid of what I would test. So I really don't like tests. I didn't like tests. But then, anyway, this friend, Sarkis, if you're out there, suggested I do this Kolbe test, because the Kolbe test was something that it talked about how you act and the way you act. And it's so the activities that you find easier and the activities that you find harder. Like, I bet let's do a little test here on here, and I'm looking over here because I'm looking for your responses. Well, let's do a little test. If I was to ask you to shoot a video to explain me something, or write a blog post, which one would you find the most easiest? Just drop it in there now. Just type video or write, video or write. Which would be easiest for you? Just type it in there, and let's have a look at the comments. Blog post. What else? Blog. Write. A lot of high fact finders here today. Very good. You see, right, with the blog post. See, people would here's the thing. All these people, there we are. We've got a video, Narelle and Tracy videos, right? Think about this. And this was a slap in the face to me. Here I was advising people, and I was suggesting people, to do different things, be it video or, so say I was talking about, I'd say, hey, do a YouTube channel. YouTube channels are awesome. Now, I would think that's no problem. And when somebody would shoot a video, oh yeah, of course, you find it a bit tricky, but just do a few videos and off you go. Here's the thing. With the Kolbe, people in this case, and for those of you who are aware of Kolbe, my numbers are 4194, right? So for people with that sort of profile, this is classic video. People, they would find it much easier to do a video than to write. Yet I would be teaching, or you'd be looking at a course, and you'd be trying to do something which is all about teaching you how to do a YouTube channel. And guess what? It's horrible. You're going completely against every bone, nerve, and fiber in your body. You'll always be miserable trying to do it. Yet most of you are trying to, right? You've tried to do it. And here's the thing. Again and again, I don't think people don't fail because of their lack of work ethic. Quite the opposite. Anybody here watching this right now or watching the video, work ethic is not a problem. It's just not, right? It's just not an issue. But often we're just not cut out for particular types of media. But because we see, oh, well, Ed's doing video, so we have to do video. Just a thumbs up. Just hit the thumbs up if the concept of doing what I'm doing now off the cuff without a script, doing it live, terrifies the heck out of you. Just hit a thumbs up. Hit the thumbs up. And for some of you, a percentage of you, that is the thing. Yet I was teaching everybody the same way. So what I realized that when I was doing the challenge, if I was teaching a video-based challenge, how many of you, right, would just find the whole concept of that abhorrent? Look at all those stuff. And here's the thing. I'm trying to teach those people, and I realized that this was a real problem. Okay. But here's where the productivity and organisation comes in. Because one of the things that Kathy pointed out, Kathy Kolbe, who invented Kolbe, which a lot of people don't realise, but her grandfather is George Gallup, right? She is literally the Gallup poll, right? The original opinion polls, right? She's got polling in her DNA, right? That's very, very right. So she is literally born to this. If there is polling royalty, she's in the polling royalty. But here's the interesting thing. okay, I read that this number here, where I'm a 1, is, and this will shock anybody who knows me, the category here is called follow through. And I am a 1 on follow through out of a possible 10. Oh, geez. Right? So now, that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? But it also means that there are certain things that I shouldn't do. If there is anything that's telling me to turn up at a certain place or time each day and do exactly the same thing each time, each day, religiously, like, in purpose, hit thumbs up if the sound of that is abhorrent to you, like that you have to turn up and just repeat the same thing again and again. Well, if I'm if I'm in low follow through, that's me. And here's the thing: shortcuts, hacks, life hacks, anything hacks. That's my jam. That's what I am the best shortcut artist in history, which in some places is awesome. In other places, not so awesome. But there you go, right? So this one follow through is key. Now, why do I point that out? Because, and this is the fascinating thing, and thanks to my exposure in the challenge, this is where it became really interesting. Because what I learnt is if you have a follow through of 6 or less, Kathy, through her extensive research over decades, realised your likelihood of following a to-do list or any sort of productivity system is near zero. Okay? So there's a surprise. Okay. Wow. Okay, I'm as low follow through as you can get. And as much as I love the concept, because I'm a 9 quick start, I love a new thing. I love a shiny object, squirrel, right? I was completely incompatible with traditional productivity and organizational systems. Here's the kicker. Okay, here we are. Here it is. Well, I thought this Kolbe thing was amazing. So with the Kolbe organization, who had access to, I wondered, well, what other profiles do entrepreneurs have? This is really interesting. There's obviously hundreds and hundreds of combinations. So entrepreneurs must have, 15, 20, 30, 100 different combinations. What are the combinations for entrepreneurs? And so we did a study with 200 challenge participants, and we got them to all do the Kolbe test. Guess what? There were 3 profiles. And there was one super tiny other one as well. But there were three out of hundreds of combinations, 3, just 3. And guess what? All of them, and this is where the chickens come home to roost, all of them, except the 3% of people who are super high fact finders, they're usually amazing project managers, were 6 or less, right? So any sort of productivity system, oh, look at this. I love a good hack. I'll find the easy way to do anything. I'll always figure out the shortcut, right? This is us. So entrepreneurs, of the hundreds of different profiles and ways that we act, literally 97% were 6 or less on follow through. Like I said, it's not a bad thing. There are no good or bad numbers in Kolbe. Whatever your Kolbe score is, your Kolbe score. It's just how you act. And think about this. The things that you found easy to do since you're a teenager. You haven't changed, and you're not likely to change. Trying to change these things are so crazy because we spend, and unfortunately our work ethic, and this is particularly strong, is to amongst entrepreneurs, is to fix our weaknesses, right? To go and fix our weaknesses and work really hard on our weaknesses. Instead, in this day and age, just capitalize on our strengths. Because guess what? People who are who are super strong where you are weak, they're hireable everywhere in this day and age. It makes no sense anymore for you to work on your weaknesses. It makes a lot more sense to stay and follow through on the activities and actions, the things that you do that work well. So this was a mind-blowing realization. So let me just pause there and let me just get some feedback from you guys. What's the aha? What's the takeaway so far from this process before we get into today's activity? So just let us know in the chat box. You can. Oh, look, and I'm just looking at some Kolbes. People have put some Kolbes, and you're seeing examples of the different types. You can see Tim Gardner is a guy who can follow a to-do list. Am I right, Tim? Scotty Hughes is pretty good with that, and I know Scott well. But and Scott's doing really well with the video stuff. But to do marketing, Adam Teese 5385, he does videos for breakfast. So I know that, right? So, but do you notice how the patterns are the same? We've either got high fact finder, high follow through, which is the first and second column. The third column is super high. And the second column. But you notice for the vast majority of people, they're all less. So what's the thing? I can rely on others to do what I hate. Where I thought I was the only one, turns out I'm the norm. Now, here's the interesting thing, Seamus. We are weird, okay? Because guess what? These three Kolbe profiles, we are like 5% of the population. 95% of the world does not operate or think like we do. And this has dramatic ramifications, which we're not going to go over today. It has incredible ramifications because most of the people you hire, if you've ever wondered why outsourcing hasn't worked for you, this is why. Because 95% of people on the planet are not wired like us at all. They can do a to-do list. They want a to-do list. They want regiment. They want all of that sort of stuff, right? And by the way, some of you do give you a roadmap and a regiment and you are super happy, you high fact finders. But pushing the button on a marketing experiment, woof. Okay. So here's the deal, right? So this is the situation. That's the lay of the land. Now the interesting thing is, okay, so if that's the case, well, how do we work? And fortunately, there was an answer, and there is an answer. And over the next few days, as I bring that down, my goal is to show you that through a series of practical exercises. And the first exercise that I want to give you, which I'd like to challenge you to complete over the next 24 hours between now and our next lesson tomorrow, is an activity which I first learned from Dean Jackson called the 15-minute focus finder. But I want to explain to you why it's so powerful, which all you high fact finders will love to know before you start the activity. Whereas us high quick starts or YOLO, I'll just do what Ed says. So this is called teaching for different types, right? Because the high fact finder is going, well, why am I going to do this thing? I don't know why it worked. Explain to me why it works first, right? Give me a thumbs up if you're explain to me why I should spend my valuable time doing this first before I do it, or do a heart if you are a YOLO, let's do this, let's just go to town. Woo! Right? I'm in the YOLO type. But let me explain the Zeigarnik effect. All right. So in psychology, here it says, here you can read it on the screen. The Zeigarnik effect states that people remember uncompleted or interrupted tasks better than completed tasks. Very handy skill. So this is a key, right? This is an absolute key to what we do. And as entrepreneurs, a lot of us are trying to juggle a whole bunch of things. Not necessarily to do with our work, because we can't do things in isolation. Newsflash, work-life balance is bull dust. It's just not true, right? Yeah, okay, you can see somebody on screen and you see a documentary for somebody to do that, but it's crap, right? I teach in the academy for the 99%, not the 1%, and the reality is you've got a whole bunch of things on your plate, from picking kids up from dancing and netball and orchestra and rehearsals, or is that just me? Right, to family activities, to work, and a lot of you work in very responsible positions. Right, there's a lot of stuff going on. All this is this is taking mental energy, and any task that is stuck in your head is actually using, because the follow-up research has just been done recently. Not only did Bloomer here in the 1920s, 1927, I think it was, discover this, but now, recently, it actually has a caloric effect. In other words, your brain consumes more energy remembering all of these unfinished and unimplemented tasks. And remember, for us, 5% of the world who are the entrepreneurs, guess what? We're more likely to have stuff in our head. And what's the dramatic impact? The dramatic impact is, if you heard the old saying, I have a weight on my mind, or I've got a weight on my shoulders. That's the caloric effect of you trying to remember all of this stuff in your head. So the first magic trick that I'm going to show you in 5 days I'm going to be the David Copperfield of entrepreneurial organizational magic, right? I want to give you 5 magic tricks, 5 things that will give you extraordinary immediate benefits. And this first one is the fantastic 50-minute focus finder. Shoom. Okay, so, and my challenge to you, the activity that I would love you to do, and you might want to do it straight after this call if you've got time, or at some point in the next 24 hours, I want you to find 50 minutes to do this focus finder exercise. Because here's the payoff, right? I'll give you the why. Thanks to the Zeigarnik effect, I don't care how overwhelmed you are. Remember, a lot of you voted in the overwhelm category, right? A lot of you were saying, yeah, definitely, that's me, overwhelmed, right? This is a magic trick. This is a incredible process that can immediately make you feel better. Well, immediately, 50 minutes later, will make you feel more in control and better, because we're going to alleviate the Zeigarnik effect by executing this exercise. And it's really simple. Okay, so the first thing we need to do, and Academy students know, there's 3 things to make any activity easy. There's an easy filter, which we use in the Academy. And the first one is environment. Environment is really crucial for this activity. So first thing is, you've got to find yourself somewhere where you're going to be uninterrupted for 50 minutes. Me personally, I like going to a coffee shop. What a surprise. And I like doing it in a cafe. I'll take headphones. I've got my little, I use my Apple Watch to set the timer, and I do this thing for 50 minutes. So the first thing is, you need to find an environment where you can be uninterrupted. And honestly, not only uninterrupted, but the person most likely to interrupt you, who is it? That's right, it's you. Right? So you've got to get less distraction. For this exercise, we need pen and paper. Find an area where you're not going to get interrupted, right? So think environment. And for 50 minutes, use airplane mode. Give yourself the gift of 50 minutes. Well, at minute 35, you may not think it's much of a gift, but by 50, you will think it's an awesome gift. Okay? Right. Then, what I want you to do is set timer for 50 minutes. Okay, set your timer for 50 minutes. And then I want you to literally dump on paper everything you've got to do in every aspect of your life. Doesn't matter how big or how small. Dump it down there, right? And now you don't have to keep the pen going for 50 minutes like other exercises that we sometimes do. It's just giving yourself the gift of 50 minutes of absolutely no interruptions for you to put this down. Now, I'll tell you, I will describe to you, and you can give me feedback tomorrow, exactly what's going to happen. Okay. So the first 20, believe it or not, for the first 20 to 25 minutes, you'll be going like a train. Probably be able to put down a bunch of stuff, right, that you've got. And you'll hit about the 25 to 45-minute mark of where you think you're dry, right? You think you've run dry of stuff. And you'll start going over your list and you'll look at other stuff. And then at about 40, 45 minutes, all of a sudden there'll be a second wind. And all of a sudden there'll be a bunch of other things. Now, don't worry if you repeat yourself or you put the same thing down, but the idea is to think of this as an organisational enema, right? We get all that stuff that's in your head out onto paper. And I'm saying to you, and I want you to experience this, I don't want you to take my word for it. I want you to do it over the next 24 hours. This is the challenge. Do your 50-minute favor and feel the cleanliness. Oh, you'll feel great, right? Or you'll at least feel better. All right. Now, don't worry, right? Because here's the thing. Most people just do this exercise and they think they've got a to-do list that's 4, legal pages long of stuff to do. Right? Don't stress about that, right? Because we're going to do our next magic trick tomorrow and it'll be good. But to start out this process, you give yourself an incredible win to show. And what I hope this exercise shows you too is that, wow, okay, if this can make me feel better and if this can reduce overwhelm and give me and make me feel control, what other things don't I know? What other things have been discovered over the last couple of years in particular that can radically make the ability for you to do work on your passion project, the project, the entrepreneurial project, whatever it happens to be, that thing that you've always wanted to do, but has always got pushed aside by all the other things. That's what we're going to do over these next 5 days. But for right now, I want to do, this is the challenge, is the 50-minute focus finder. Now, 2 things from you before you go. One, I'd love to see, first of all, if there are any questions, pop up your questions in the chat box and I'm happy to answer those about the activity or anything I've talked about today. And so let's do, actually, before we do that, stop that. Or feel free, don't stop, put your question in. But the other thing I'd love to do is, what's been your big aha? What's been your insight about today's session? What's the thing that has been the most insight to you today? So do both of those things and we'll drop those on the here. Oh, what's netball? Netball is played in Commonwealth countries, the ones that you US colonists decide to bail out on. It's sort of like basketball without the dribbling. So there you go. Okay, so Damien's got that. Is write everything that's on my mind, not just the work stuff. Yes, absolutely. Because too often we're expected to do our courses and our education programs and all these sorts of things. It's like you're in this perfect isolated bubble. And maybe you are if you've got the privilege of being able to work full time on your passion project. Most people are not like that, right? So it makes no sense to, because the reality is that everything that goes on your life impacts on your entrepreneurial activities. So to discount those, to put those to one side, to me is the definition of insanity. It makes no sense because the reason you get derailed in your entrepreneurial activity is often stuff that happens outside. It's a health issue or a family issue or a work issue. All of a sudden you get super busy or all those sorts of things. What I'm telling you and what I am determined to prove to you over the next 5 days is there a way of always giving yourself forward momentum and progress. So, and to understand that little bits of progress done consistently is way more powerful than trying to do things in brute force, big chunks. That's a key. Takeaway: review my Kolbe results and swing back into that way of operating a practice. Dragged it out today. Fantastic. Everyone gets as frustrated as I do about this stuff. Feel like I need 5 hours. 50 minutes will be perfect. Trust me. And there's a bunch of science about why 50 minutes is important, but I'm going to save that for later in the weeker. Having an easy filter is valuable. Yes, more on the easy filter later in the week too. I thought Kolbe test has no right and wrong answers. It's just a way to find out about my strengths in particularly what are called your cognitive tasks. In other words, the way you act. Some people prefer to draw. Some people prefer to do video. Some people prefer to write. It's a strength thing. So you may as well do things that are useful to you. The glorious thing about this day and age is as we build a business, no matter what it is that we can use any of these mechanisms, any of these media, any of our skills. And there are plenty of other people who can back us up where we are weak, as opposed to spending all our time and energy, which is a huge part of what we're going to be looking at this week. Not woo-woo energy, literal caloric energy. That makes the big difference, right, to being able to work. Takeaway: easy button. I mean filter. I do have an easy button. Oh, actually, this is not my easy button. That's my WTF button. Where is my easy button? I've got the WTF button, but not the easy button. Takeaway: never correlate the weight on my shoulders with incomplete tasks. Just thought I was busy and tired. Yeah, Kolbe, no rules, just right. Very good. Okay, so that is your challenge. Are you going to accept that challenge? Give me a thumbs up or a yes in the comments box. This is to find 50 minutes, find an environment where you're not going to be interrupted, put your phone in airplane mode, and then try to put your phone in a bag or somewhere. Have a timer. You can see a photo on the slide there of my time timer. That's what I use when I'm at home because it's clown size. I've got a little one that I can use when I'm out and about. All right. Set the timer for 50 minutes and just jot down. Pen and paper is the only thing you need. Don't do this on a computer because you'll get a bing and a whistle, and before you know it, you're watching surfing dogs on YouTube. Don't do that. Or my new favorite channel, as I was telling the Academy students this morning at our kickoff, is IKEA Hunks. Do you know there's a whole YouTube channel of dudes that build IKEA furniture, literally anything you can build from IKEA, and they are huge, hunky Scandinavian types. And as they build the furniture, they get hot and sweaty because they're working hard, and they slowly but surely take off their clothing and drink beer while building and showing you how to build IKEA. What a great planet we live on. If that's not reason to live in 2018, I don't know what is. Excellent. Yeses. Lots of yeses in there. That is awesome. Brain enema time. Exactly, Peter. That's fabulous. All right, folks, that's it. Now, remember, we're back again. Same bat channel, same bat time tomorrow. I'll send you an email reminder about an hour out just to remind you. And we're going to take this list, which will make you feel better, but the more you ruminate on it, you'll start to move from, oh, I feel like the enema, to, oh my goodness, all I've got is the stuff that came out of the enema is now on a big pile. And really, that's not very useful. We're going to, actually, I'm not going to go with this metaphor anymore. I was going to say we're going to turn that into fertilizer and make beautiful things grow, but now I've really disgusted myself. So that's what I want to do. Can't wait to work with you tomorrow. Do the exercise. You'll feel so much better about it, and then get ready for day 2 of niche style implementation design. And by the way, if you found this useful, please tell your friends. Let them know. That would be awesome. The video will be available to share on Facebook, and I'll pop it up on YouTube a bit later as well. All right, folks, thanks very much for today, and I will see you soon. Go for it, and we'll see you tomorrow. As I try to figure out how to stop this. Here we are.